In this video, I'm going to be talking about sometimes just why it feels like your stun doesn't really do anything, how to work around that, what abilities are and aren't affected by it. So just sometimes, and this is the way that stun time works, stun time is just heavily impacted by the enemy's status resistance. So if I have a slime like Yolissa, where Yolissa's primary ability, it looks like it should stun enemies for a pretty significant amount of time. So at a level 199, it should use the rock power to stun enemies within the area for 6 seconds. So if I go all the way back, and I'll showcase this on a few different stages. First, I'll go to stage 2. We're at 1x speed. As soon as I see an enemy walk onto the screen, I'm going to use the ability. You're going to see that enemy is going to be stunned for a pretty decent amount of time. 6 seconds, or it might be slightly under. I don't know exactly how much status resistance that enemy has. Now, if I fast forward over here, we'll go to stage 9. I'm going to do the exact same thing. We're going to stun that enemy. Now you can see that definitely was significantly less than that 6 seconds we were kind of just thinking we would see. Now doing it same thing on stage 12. Going to stun him right here. Pretty well hardly stunned at all. We're going to fast forward, and then I'll stun this guy in the back again, just so you can kind of see that again. So it doesn't really do much, and that's just something you can't really escape. And so when you're optimizing your Tower of Elements, whatever, something to just be aware of is a lot of times upgrading that stun time doesn't really do a ton. Now, ways you can work around this is just looking for abilities or gear, stuff that can stun the enemies where it will actually explain that it's not affected by enemy status resistance. So one of the kind of neat things here is if you upgrade Yolissa to level 200, she has a unique skill Immortal Wall. So this wall, so anytime Earth Shattering, so your primary ability, anytime you use it, it's going to summon a wall that lasts for 6 seconds and blocks the enemy's movement. Now, because you are summoning a wall and you're not actually just directly stunning the enemies, this will be kind of cool where, I meant to slow that down, but I'll use the ability right here, and then I'm going to stun this guy in the back. And then you can see that wall appear. So one thing you need to be aware of, if you are doing this, you're going to have to time it kind of carefully. So, and part of this is just placement. So if I want to try and stun this lizard guy, I'm going to actually place it right in front of him, and then it's going to place that wall, and then that lizard is just sitting within the attack range for 6 seconds, and I can just still attack him. Now, if you have it set to counter or whatever, you might have a little hit and miss just depending on when that stun actually occurs. Now this varies. There's a couple of other, one of the more popular ones is Chloris actually has a pretty good, it's not directly a stun, but it's a sleep. And this is where you'll see where her flower cannon, it will damage the enemies, putting them in his sleep for 6 seconds. And then in parentheses, it will say ignoring status resistance. So unless it's directly summoning something, that's what the kind of the keywords you're going to want to look out for when it says ignoring status resistance. So if I equip Chloris here, and then I'm going to go into battle, I'm going to go into 1x speed, and then I'm going to put the enemies to sleep. And then you can see that enemy in the back, he got stunned, and actually stunned for the full time rather than being affected by status resistance, just because that ability does clarify it's not affected by status resistance. Another one of the popular ones is the Thunder God set, where your slime's attacks will have a 12% chance to trigger this chain lightning. It'll deal damage, and then it will deal damage up to 8 enemies, and then it will apply a 0.5 second paralysis effect. Another kind of similar word to stun, but it does clarify it ignores status resistance. So if I go here, I'm going to go to 1x speed. You're going to see anytime they're all just shocked, it actually is going to stun them. It's not a very long one. It is half a second, but it definitely is longer than some of those other abilities we were seeing. But just kind of wanted to, just when I was playing through the game, I noticed there's some weird quirks and some abilities that you think would be pretty powerful, depending on how long they said they were going to stun the enemies. But you just need to be aware of how that stun is taking effect, whether it will be affected by the enemy's status resistance or not. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.